As Esther said, my name is Mark. I'm an attorney. All right. I'm not used to talking on a mic. Years of being in court. As Esther said, I was in the DA's office for about 10 years. Prosecuted for those 10 years. Probably had 3,000 days in court. So trying to boil this down to my day in court is going to be very difficult. You're going to have to wait for the movie or the book for the rest. As Esther said, spent a lot of time in court. Rapes, murders, home invasions, a lot of really good stuff. I'm going to boil it down to two stories. I'm going to try and fit it in 5 minutes. Shoplifting and trespassing. First case is a shoplifting case. Now, in Malden District Court, you get all kinds of people. And on this particular day, there was a shoplifting, and the loss prevention officers from the Super Stop and Shop, whatever it was, brought in this tape. You got to prosecute this guy. You got to throw the book at this guy. This guy is the worst of the worst. It's a shoplifting case. We don't get excited about shoplifting cases anymore. It's shoplifting, for God. No, you have to see this. I'll get to it. No, you have to see this. Pop the tape in the VCR. Honest to God, it was the craziest thing you've ever seen in your life. I am not making up one word of this. Grainy film clarifies, and you see this gentleman looks like Howard Stern in Daisy Dukes, okay? Chuck Taylor's Daisy Dukes tank top, okay? He's walking in Super Stop and Shop. It's like a July day, and he goes to the produce aisle, straight to the produce aisle, like they're giving away concert tickets, produce aisle. He goes to the cucumber section, and he is looking at those cucumbers with more care and introspection than I put into my law school applications. In hindsight, if I had looked at my law school applications like those cucumbers, I probably would have been a Harvard graduate and I'd still be practicing law. But it didn't work out that way. So this gentleman, whose name I chose never to remember, spent about 10 minutes selecting just the right cucumber. He put it in his cart and he sashayed down the aisle where the camera is following him, because now the guys, you know, the loss prevention officers at the Super Stop and Shop, it's like a Vegas floor. I mean, these guys are on this guy like he's stealing a Brinks truck. They follow him down to the next aisle, which is the home goods aisle. And now things are getting a little crazy. All he's got in his cart is this carefully selected piece of vegetable. And he goes and he picks up a jar of Vaseline. Now, after he proceeds, and this is all on tape, I mind you, takes out a healthy handful of Vaseline, and we all know where that went. Right up the back of the Daisy Dukes. Next, he lovingly massages the cucumber with said Vaseline. Looks around, at which point, off the camera, comes this woman dragging her daughter, who's literally horizontal at this point, because I think the woman sees what's about to happen. And she's getting that girl out before she's emotionally scarred for life. And sure enough, that cucumber went straight up the back of those Daisy Dukes. And this gentleman then attempted to leave the store with the produce that he had not paid for. Ergo, facto, ipso, shoplifting. And here's the funny part. That wasn't even the funny part. And lawyers in the room can help me out. The charge was shoplifting by means of asportation, which in legalese means transporting the good without paying for it. Asportation. You will all remember that term. Shoplifting by means of asportation. So if you never go to law school, now you have a little legal nugget to put in your book forever.
Did they get a search warrant?
They did not get a search warrant, but we asked the loss prevention officers, do you have the evidence? And they were like, what do you mean? Well, clearly you stopped the guy, you got the tape, where's the cucumber? They're like, we didn't say, you want the, what? Yeah, you need the cucumber, we need some evidence. They were like, No! No cucumber. But the case was dismissed with small court costs and a lot of good memories. Second case, which sticks in my memory after 10 years and 3,000 cases, was a open and gross lewdness in Harvard Square by one of the country's preeminent students at one of the country's preeminent universities, who had clearly had a few too many pints, and one evening he was out and did some things that I'm sure when he goes on to be a senator or a U.S. congressman, he's not going to be too proud of. But, all right, I'm going to wrap this up real quick. So anyway, open and gross lewdness. He had dropped his trousers and showed his private parts to a group of Harvard co-eds who really were quite horrified by it all, called the police officer who arrested him. He came to court and chose to confess his sins, confess his crimes, and throw himself on the mercy of the court. He was in front of a female judge, maybe the same female judge who Libby had been in front of. And this female judge was not too hot on this guy and what he had done to these young women. So she was sentencing him, she was dismissing the case and sentencing him to take a women's studies class so that he could broaden his horizons and become more sensitive to the fair gender. And in the process of admitting to sufficient facts, the prosecutor at that point, which would be me, needs to read into the record the specific facts that constitute the element of the crime. And you really can't sugarcoat it. You got to basically say what it was, and the judge has to hear all the facts. So, at which time I read into the record, Your Honor, at which time the defendant, who was located at defense table, then dropped his trousers, exposing his genitalia to a group of females who were in the area, showed his penis to them and said, hey baby, why don't you come over here and suck my, I've got 12 inches, end quote. At which point the judge she's not happy about that, and she's lecturing the defendant and telling him, and going through the colloquy with him and making sure that he understood what he was doing, and he was admitting to sufficient facts, and he understood that there were going to be consequences. And while all this is going on, this is just an open and gross, it's not a big deal. The court officer behind me, a gentleman by the name of Kevin Johnson, who goes about 6'8", 280, big football player, leans over to me, African-American gentleman, he says, y'all ought to prosecute that white boy for perjury. Ain't no way he's got 12 inches.